So as Jose said, welcome. This is the state of the Puppet community. So we're going to tag team. We've got a whole presentation for you guys. It's going to be fun. So I am Dawn Foster. I'm the community lead at Puppet Labs. And so I manage kind of the whole community thing. Kara on our team can introduce herself.
Sorry. We have a little bit of feedback in the speaker, by the way. So I'm a community manager here as well, and I'll talk a little bit about the stuff specifically that I work on at Puppet.
Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about, the obligatory agenda slide. We'll sort of give you an intro to the Puppet community. How many of you are active, consider yourself an active participant in the community right now? A few. How many are here because you're interested in finding out more about how to contribute to the community? Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about the whole thing, everything, all the community stuff today. We'll talk about how you can contribute online. That's the portion I'll be doing. Kara will be talking about how you can contribute in person, like real people stuff. And then at the end, we'll sort of get you ready to contribute, and we'll summarize, wrap the whole thing up. So the first thing I want to start out with, I tend to define community maybe a little bit differently than a lot of people do. So I look at sort of the broadest possible definition of community, and the community really does include all of the people who work on Puppet. So these are product contributors, so these are the developers who actually work on the product, release managers, QA, localization, all that kind of stuff. The other developers who are writing maybe modules or writing applications, extensions, that sort of thing. Users, so the people who actually use the software and provide feedback on it, are a very valuable part of the community. Vendors, too. We have a lot of companies with products and services that are based upon Puppet, and they're also very valuable members of the community. And then all the other ways that you can contribute: promoting the product, helping out with moderation, documentation, everything. And some people contribute as part of their full-time employment at companies. Some people do it on their free time. And the community really includes all of the people who are working on the Puppet projects. So I'm a Puppet employee, but I'm also a member of the community. So it's really, really all of us. One big happy family. So everybody can participate in the Puppet community. So it doesn't matter how technical you are. It doesn't matter if you're a developer. It really, there is a place for just about everybody to contribute something to the community. And we're going to talk about all of these different areas as we go through the presentation today. So we're going to start with the many ways that you can contribute to the Puppet community, from the comfort of your home, work, favorite coffee shop, tea house, pub, wherever you want, all the stuff online. We're going to talk about that. The community is growing. As I mentioned before, there's lots of ways to participate. We also have a public metrics dashboard. How many people knew that we had this? Okay, a few. We haven't really talked about it much, so I'm going to talk about it here. So what's for? But you can see the whole dashboard. So you can get full details from the link there at the bottom. The whole thing is public, so I get the same view you do, so you can see everything that goes on in the community. And so I'm a huge fan of metrics, but I hate it when people abuse them by showing misleading data. So I've tried to focus as much as I possibly can on the actual contributions that people are making. So a lot of people artificially inflate their metrics by including people who have at one point registered for something, signed up for something, but never actually done anything. I generally, for the most part, don't count those people because I don't consider them participants in the community. So when we look at the numbers, and I'll talk about some of the caveats, but these really are, and you can see it, it's the code developers. These are people who've actually committed something. The ticket participants, these are people who have actually done something in JIRA, like commented on a ticket or filed a bug. Discussion participants, people who have, not the people who are signed up for the mailing lists, that's a different number, but these are the people who have actually posted something to the mailing list. So that's kind of what we focus on. And you can see some of the highlights. I mean, over 1,300 people have actually contributed code or documentation. It includes our documentation repo. And over 950 people have filed bugs, commented, or participated in some way in the JIRA bug tracker. And over 5,700 people have actually posted a message to one of our mailing lists, which is pretty fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about all the ways you can contribute, and I'm going to show you the metrics at the same time. So I'm going to kind of wrap it all together. The IRC participation numbers, that's the one number that's inflated because of the way IRC handles work. So a lot of people have multiple handles. They have one when they're at home, they have one when they're at work, they have one when they're away from the keyboard. So these are basically unique IRC handles who have posted at least one thing in the IRC channel. So our IRC channel is one of the most popular ones on Freenode, but I do still think that number's a little inflated. The mailing list and IRC are both great places to have discussions about Puppet. You can talk to other users, talk to developers, talk to contributors. They're both really good tools for those kind of discussions. So the mailing list, in particular, is really great for discussions that should stick around for a while. So if it's something that you think people might want to search for later, they might want to look at a whole thread, those are the kind of discussions that are great for the mailing list. And it's great for asynchronously communicating with people around the world who aren't all in the same time zone. That's one of the limitations of IRC. So IRC is really fantastic for when you want to talk to somebody right now, or when you just kind of want to hang out and chat with other users, or you've got some particular thing that you want to talk about. So the IRC channel is really great for that. Anything really important should be discussed on the mailing list, because the reality is we are just not all on IRC at the same time. So the numbers and charts are pretty cool, but it is actually all about the people, which is what you'll see me focus on. The mailing lists have been around for a really, really long time. Luke still has the top all-time posts record. People are catching up to him gradually. He still posts in the mailing list on a pretty regular basis, especially Puppet Dev. But we have a lot of long-term contributors, so people like John Bollinger and Felix Frank, who've been, you can see them both they're on all three of these lists because they've been long-term contributors and they're still participating on a regular basis, which is great. That's the stuff I like to see, the consistent participation over the years. Now, shifting gears a little bit, if you have questions about using Puppet, Ask Puppet Labs is the place to go. So the questions are really searchable. They're very easily searchable before you ask a question, so you can find out if somebody else has asked it already, see their answers. You can also comment and vote on questions and answers, so it's kind of similar to a Stack Overflow model. But if you know a lot about Puppet, answering questions there is a great place to help other users. It's super user-friendly. It's a really great place to help out. Now, how many of you remember the spam on Ask a bit ago? Okay, that was awful. That ruined a lot of weekends for me. I'm just going to say that. We had a huge spam issue, and I do think a few people were driven away by the waves of astrology spam. But I encourage you to come back. So we've dealt with this. We started moderating first post. So now the only person who sees the spam, me, the other moderators. And since we're moderating the first post, you don't get those waves of spam because you just never see it because they just get automatically banned. So it's a much nicer, friendlier place now if you want to check it out again. How many of you have participated on Ask? A few. It's pretty cool. I like it. So the Ask site has only been around for about a year and a half, but quite a few people are actually participating. So you can see the numbers for the people who are asking and answering questions. And so these are the top lists. And you can see all the details if you actually go to the Liturgia site. But it includes, so just to be clear, the participation. So you have people asking questions, people answering questions, and people participating. Answering and asking, that one's kind of obvious. Participation includes all of people who are doing anything, so comments, voting, that sort of thing. So it includes all the other stuff in addition to the asking and answering. So it's one kind of holistic number. So this is probably what most people think of when they think about contributing to the community. And don't get me wrong, it's a great way to contribute. Module contributions are a really great place to start if you want to contribute code, because you can use and contribute to other people's modules, upload your own modules, for people upload them to the Forge for other people to use. And you can contribute to some of our core projects. So Factor's an easy place to start. If Ruby isn't your thing, you can contribute to some of our closure projects like PuppetDB, for example. And I've also included docs on this page, which seems kind of weird. It's code and docs. But the docs live in a GitHub repo, so they actually show up as commits in all of our code metrics. However, you don't actually need to know anything about Git to contribute to our repos. because we also accept bug fixes for our documentation via Jira tickets, bug tickets. We'll take them in via email, and there are lots of other ways that you can contribute to our documentation that don't involve the standard pull request method, although that's cool too. As a matter of fact, Nick, who's on our docs team, so if you look at the all-time number of commits, you can see that Nick is the second largest contributor to our GitHub repos. Realistically, he has some code commits mixed in with the documentation commits because he tends to do a little bit of both. But you can see he's one of the all-time leaders, prolific committer. Again, Luke. Luke is still actually the all-time leader, even though we don't let him write code anymore. But he's still in the lead. He's got a lot of history. It's going to take some catching up, but they're working on it. Nick and Henrik are getting up there. This data is for people who have authored modules and posted them to the Forge. So we have Puppet Labs modules, of course, as you expect. But we also have people like Alessandro. He's example 42 on the list there, who have so many modules posted on the Forge. So at this point, I have spent enough time talking about online contributions. So I am going to turn it over to Kara, and she's going to talk about more ways that people can contribute that are not online.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about basically, ways to contribute to the Puppet community, offline participation with other Puppet users in person. So since I'm talking about a bunch of events and I'm talking about them in the context of participation, I wanted to highlight that we really want all of our community members to get out and talk about Puppet. And that may mean submitting talks. We'll definitely talk a bunch about that. But that also means just talk to other Puppet users. Go to events and chat with people and find out what they're doing and share what you're doing with them. That's so crucial to the Puppet community. And you don't need to work at Puppet to talk at conferences about Puppet. I know many of you know this, but some people don't. Like, you can really get out there and submit stuff because if you're using Puppet, you're the expert. Like, yeah, we're building it. That's awesome. But and you're also, as you see with the contributions, helping to build it. But you know how it's working for you and your infrastructure. You're an expert. Get out and tell people how that works for you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the ecosystem of Puppet events you can participate in. I worry I'm a little bit of an events conspiracy theorist. I'm like, oh, if you think about it, it builds these pyramids, and it all makes sense. So if the pyramid's weird, whatever. I don't know. This isn't how we plan it. So walk you through my conspiracy theory here. So Puppet user groups are the foundation of local Puppet community. They are a fantastic place to try out new talks. If you're an experienced speaker, see how that talk kind of works in person. And if you're new to speaking, seriously, go talk at the Puppet user group. Take 10 or 20 minutes and tell folks what you've just learned, what you're doing with Puppet. You could even be a beginner. You're going to help other beginners. They're a really comfortable place. They're smaller groups. They're a comfortable place to kind of try things out and chat with folks. They're also great because if you travel, you can kind of look in the city that you're traveling. Go to this site right up here, to the community page, and you can see we've got over 50 pugs on there. Find where you're traveling and reach out and see if they're going to have a meeting. Say, hey, you haven't met in a while. Do you want to get together? I'd love to chat with you. And it's a great way to kind of cross-pollinate different areas in person. If you're interested in talking more about Puppet user groups, maybe you want to run a Puppet user group, start one, or you just want to help the one in your area become even more awesome, come to my workshop. It's at 5:10 today. It's going to be fantastic if you're into Puppet user groups, which you will be by the end of it, I promise. So how many people here have attended a Puppet camp? Yeah, nice. OK. I love that there's a bunch of folks here who haven't, because that's potential, folks who could enjoy a Puppet camp. How many folks have spoken at a Puppet camp? Yeah, we got a few. So Puppet camps are a one-day event with a full day of talks that happen in select cities around the world. We do about 20 to 30 a year. They're some of my favorite events because it's just like a full one day of Puppet. It's fantastic. I'm biased. But we do a call for papers for every Puppet camp, and we publicize those sort of on our site. So I encourage you to look at that, submit a proposal. Maybe there's one in your area, or maybe there's one in an area that you want to go to, So we've got an upcoming CFP right now in Atlanta. If you're like, I do really want to go to Atlanta, Georgia. But we also have ones coming up in Dusseldorf, Melbourne, Seattle, London, and we'll do those sort of all around the world. I do want to mention that Puppet camps have evolved to be more beginner heavy. We have a lot of folks who are new to Puppet coming into Puppet camps, which is great. But for those that are looking for more advanced content, I'll cover that a little later on. Puppet camps don't have that content anymore. That's backwards, that's not forwards. There's 2 buttons. It's pretty complex on this thing, so give me some slack. So PuppetConf, I was going to bring a mirror for this part and just hold it up, but I didn't want to put that in my baggage for not a very good gag. So you're here, you kind of already know about it. I'm really excited for it to be in Portland next year, as was announced this morning. Come join us in Portland. I'm from Portland. I love it. I hope you love it too. And that is another excellent opportunity to talk with Puppet users from all over the world. And submit a talk if you like, but it's really about people coming together, chatting about Puppet. So I've talked a little bit about some Puppet events, and you can see how they kind of build on and support each other, and you're a crucial part of that. But next I'd like to talk specifically about activities for contributors. How many folks here knew that we do pull request hangouts? That's way better than I expected. That was like 7 people maybe. We do pull request hangouts. Basically, we'll do ones from the platform team, so sort of like core open source Puppet and Factor, and the module team does one as well. And they do it every week. And the folks who are going to be, at Puppet Labs who are going to be reviewing those pull requests get in a Google Hangout, and anyone can join and come chat with them. And the great thing about this is it means that if you submitted a change request, you're the expert. You know what the issue was that you encountered. You know about your specific environment. You know why you submitted that change. So you can really speed up that process and that feedback loop by chatting with the folks and say, hey, let's get this merged. This is what's going on here. And you can also just drop in and check out other people's pull requests and talk about it. So it's kind of a fun time to chat. Those are every week, and they're announced on the Puppet Dev channel on IRC, and also on the Puppet Dev mailing list. So drop in for one of those and see what folks are up to. Puppet Hack, Pound Puppet Hack is a new event. In the past, we've done the Triage-a-thon, and we've kind of evolved that. This is the latest exciting evolution. So Pound Puppet Hack is an online community hack day. Our first one's going to be December 3rd. And basically, folks from all over the world are going to get online. It's going to have a pretty long time period. My time, we're doing like 1 a.m. to 4 p.m. to hit as many time zones as we can. And Puppet community members and Puppet employees get together and kind of hack on the stuff they've been wanting to work on with Puppet. So for those of you that came to the Contributor Summit, this is fairly, the just hack on stuff portion is fairly similar, but online, sort of in IRC. So we're very excited about this. We'd love it if you join us on December 3rd. I know that there are things you've been wanting to work on that you haven't had time to. This is a great day to like carve out a day, work with other people on those things, and move stuff forward. I almost hit the back button again. So how many folks were at our Contributor Summit Monday? Yeah, a few folks. So for those of you that weren't there, Contributor Summit is a time for contributors and advanced users from all over the world to come together and talk about the amazing things that they're doing with Puppet. It's a good time for our engineers to get feedback and to also talk about where we're headed. And it's a great time for community members and employees and everyone to sort of work together on the stuff they've been thinking about. There's a lot of very interesting things got done on Monday. So our next one is going to be in Europe. 2015, we'll do 2 a year, one in the US and one elsewhere. So we're going to be in Ghent, in Belgium, yeah, February 4th. Pretty excited. That's right up against FOSDEM for anyone who's headed over for that. Yeah. So putting the pyramid together here, step by step. This doesn't happen in a vacuum, though. It's part of a larger ecosystem of tons of different events, many of which, most of which events out there are not Puppet related. So there are a lot of other great places to talk about Puppet and to talk to folks about Puppet, and I really encourage that. One of my favorite ways that anyone can kind of contribute is Puppet test pilots. You'll see them here at PuppetConf. If you go in sort of that demo room and you go further back to the side, they've got a bunch of laptops set up. You can see an example right here. And anyone can go in and sit down, and they've got some short activities there. But the great thing, one of the things I really like, is you get access to cool new features. If you sign up for Puppet Test Pilots, they'll say, hey, we really want you to try this out. Let us know what you think. And it's a good way for you to get your feedback incorporated into the direction we're going. Plus, you get some pretty sweet sneak peeks, I'm not going to lie. And you get to help determine which of those things we actually move on to further develop. So I definitely recommend signing up for Puppet Test Pilots. It doesn't take very much time, and it has, I think, a really good impact, and it's a fun activity. So our community of Puppet is for everyone, and part of making our community welcoming to everyone is making sure that community interactions are positive, because we really want everyone to feel welcome. Something we all care a lot about, which is excellent. And since we want the Puppet community to be an awesome place, our community guidelines are designed to make sure that it stays that way. It's currently, fantastic, and we really want to keep that. So we have some general guidelines as well as some really specific actionable ones and some processes. You can check that out on the site, and we've got, it goes further and further. But thank you so much for being a part of such a welcoming community, and I really encourage you to read the community guidelines and kind of know that content. Community recognition. So we do featured community members, and I would love if folks here would go and nominate someone. If you're like, oh, I talked to this person in PuppetConf, I love their code, I love what they're doing, go nominate them. It's on our community page. You'll see it right there if you go to, I should have put the link on the slide, I clearly didn't. If you go to our main community page, over to the side of it. And so that kind of helps us highlight folks and let you know about folks who are doing really interesting things with Puppet. And this year, for the first time, we did something new that you probably heard about this morning in the keynote, the most valuable puppeteer. And I'm going to pass this over to Dawn to talk about that.
Okay. So Luke actually talked about the contributions to the community this morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight for each one of these people, while we also give them their fabulous prizes, I'm going to highlight one thing that they do to help the community, to give you examples of ways that you can contribute and become a more valued participant in the community. So we're going to start with Danny. Kara does a much better pronunciation of this name. I'm doing the cop-out version. So Danny does a lot of work to help other users. So anybody who's used Puppet, if you've been using it for even a month or two, there's probably something that you know that someone who just started using it doesn't. And you can help those users on IRC and on the mailing lists. And we do have, as I said, fabulous prizes, which come in envelopes. Danny has to come up and get his envelope. So for this, thank you. So the finalists get a $25 Amazon gift card to the country store of their choice, a $25 gift card to the new Puppet store, which just launched, which has some really cool stuff, and they get a free certification of their choice. So we give them a free certification code. Well, they don't get a free certification. Let me rephrase this. That's not the way certification works. They get a coupon to take the certification test for free. Whether they pass it or not, that's up to them. But we let them take it for free. Still cool. Sadly, Felix is not here. He lives in Berlin. He didn't come for PuppetConf, couldn't make it this year. But one of the things that Felix has done is he has fixed just a ton of long-standing bugs in Puppet. So he looks at the bug tracker, he finds something that's interesting, and fixes it, which is pretty fantastic. So that's another way you can participate in the community. You can just look out there. If there's a particular thing that you're interested in, you can search for it in the bug tracker, find it, and find something that really needs some work. It's a great way to participate. Tim, yet more fabulous prizes. Thanks, Tim. So Tim has, as Luke mentioned earlier, the creator of our spec puppet, Puppet Lint, which awesome testing tools. But he's actually, it's not. So a lot of people we have our tools and then we kind of keep them to ourselves. But Tim has shared the tools with everybody. So shared his awesome testing tools with the rest of the community. So that's another thing you can do. Surely there's some tool that you use to do something, and you can share it with the community and get great feedback on it. Let other people use it. It's another really great way to participate in the community. Eric was our MVP winner. He gets a trophy. There you go. Thank you. The trophy is hilarious. So we actually, Meg found the trophy. We searched that actually, so I thought it'd be hard to find an Erlenmeyer flask trophy. It was, because that was disguised as a beaker trophy. The name of that is a beaker trophy, and that is not a beaker. It's an Erlenmeyer flask. I know this because Meg in the back, she's the third part of our community team. She educated me on what the difference between it was. I didn't do so much chemistry. But the award's kind of cool. The other thing that Eric gets in addition to the fancy chemistry award, so he gets a $100 gift certificate to the Amazon store of his choice, $100 at the Puppet store, a free ticket to PuppetConf next year, and the certification. So, certification test. I have confidence you'll pass it. So one of the things that Eric has done, and this is something that anybody can do, all you have to do is use some component of Puppet. So Eric gives us really, really great feedback on how to make PuppetDB better. Probably because he uses it in crazy ways that we just don't even understand, but he gives us feedback on it and helps us make it better, which is awesome. And that's something anybody can do. Surely there's something that you use that you wish worked differently, and you can give us feedback on that too, which is awesome. So one more round of applause to thank our MVPs. You too can contribute. So this is just a summary kind of everything that we talked about. You can help each other, asking and answering questions on the Ask website, or participate in the mailing lists or IRC discussions about Puppet, fix bugs, file new bugs, contribute code to your favorite module. So there may be another module on the Forge that you use, and you can contribute to that. You can also contribute your own modules to the Forge, and help us make our documentation better as well. That's awesome. Submit talks for your local Puppet user group, Puppet Camp, next year's PuppetConf. It's pretty awesome. Speakers get really snazzy things like the speaker jackets. Oh, Danny's modeling the speaker jacket. It's lovely. So you get cool things by speaking at PuppetConf. And then you can attend our contributor events. So Kara mentioned the February 4th one in Ghent, which is going to be awesome. And we're also going to do one next year at PuppetConf again in Portland. So we'll do it the day before PuppetConf, the way we did this one, which is a pretty great way to kind of kickstart your contributions. So thank you. So obviously the community, Luke talked about this a lot in his keynote. The community really is what makes Puppet so special. Without the community, it wouldn't be what it is. It just would not be. And so I've been working with open source communities for 13-ish years. And this is by far the friendliest community I've ever worked in, as far as like open source communities go. It's a really fantastic group of people. So thank you all for coming and participating in our session, and we will take questions if you have them. And Jose is going to wander around with the mic. I'm being blinded by the lights, so I can't see who you are if you ask a question. No question. Oh, somebody has a question. I'm not going to let you get off that easy. Carol has one. Wait for the mic.
I forgot what it was called now, but the hacking day. Yeah, is there going to be, like I do, I work with Open Hatch, and we help people get involved, and we always have like sort of group tasks that maybe new people could do. Have you guys, is that something like, whether it's documentation or an intro to how to hack even? I know that sounds crazy to people that might be here, but for new contributors or first-time contributors.
Yeah, so, am I still mic'd?
Okay, cool.
Just checking. Perfect. So this is kind of a new evolution of an event called the Triage-a-thon. And for the Triage-a-thon, originally, well, we wanted it really to be accessible to anyone, especially we wanted to give that opportunity for beginners as well. And so we made sort of beginner documentation where people were like, hey, get started, here's what you can do. And we realized that we weren't actually providing a good enough experience for people who were new to Puppet. It was a more advanced activity that wasn't what they were looking for to be triaging all these bugs. So we changed it to specifically an intermediate to advanced event, and then we added a beginner portion of the evening where we streamed a bunch of beginner Puppet talks, and we sent people to that and said, hey, here's a bunch of talks. Some of them were about how to start contributing to Puppet, and that seemed to work pretty well. Right now for Pound Puppet Hack, we're thinking of it as a more intermediate to advanced event, but it's not as structured. So we'll still have sort of that introductory document for people to get in, and kind of get started. But because people can work on whatever, then we can point them in that introductory document and said, hey, like work on this kind of thing if you're kind of new here, or you could go sort of listen to these videos on how to contribute and stuff, and we'll be able to point that. But we won't have support, like we won't have people who can help beginners start learning how to contribute. That's something we're not going to have, and I want to be clear about that because I love beginners, and I don't want anyone to be sad and think they're going to get that and they won't for the event. Yeah.
Did you guys ever do just a doc sprint?
Ooh.
I don't think we have, but that's a great idea.
Love it.
The other thing that I would really like to do that I haven't done, LibreOffice has this. They have a list of of things you can help with, like very specific bugs that would be something that would be easy for someone to fix. It's just something that they haven't tackled. So it's a lot of like quick hit things that you can do if you're just getting started. I would like to put something like that together for Puppet. I haven't really had a chance to do that, but I would like to find some ways for new contributors to get more easily involved.
We actually set up what it would be required for us to start doing that. I think just no one's had time to go back through and reassign things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Open Hat, all of our stuff is open source. So between Shauna and I, we probably could help you figure out how to do it for beginners in an easy way that's not too taxing on you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and maybe combine it with a different event or something.
Cool.
I'd love to chat.
Yeah,
that
we'll talk to you
wonderful.
about that offline. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
All right.
I got too excited.
Thank you. You mentioned
gonna get his
the
exercise.
happiness. Is that something that the community enforces from above, or that has grown organically? Like, what's the secret to making and maintaining a happy group?
That's a really hard question. Honestly, this one sort of came that way. I think Luke sets the tone for it. So I think a lot of that kind of came from him and just how he started the project. And he's always been very collaborative with a lot of people. So I think that in this case, the community did sort of come that way. But I think the other thing you can do is really work with your contributors, especially the people who are participating on a regular basis. You can work with them and help them really set the tone for your whole community. So if you're working with people and they're the leaders of the project are acting in a certain way, then people will naturally want to emulate that. So that's one way that you can get sort of a more pleasant environment, is just making sure that you're really clear with the top contributors that this is what we want. Can you help us make this happen? Can you be a role model? Yeah.
I'd like to help and shove people towards your community and try to help them get involved. So is there a particular type of group that you need more involvement from, or is particularly well suited to get involved in the Puppet community? And a corollary to that, is there a group or particular type of person or skill set that you either don't really see a lot of benefit from or you have in surplus? I know that's a mean question for me to ask. Sorry.
That's a big question. I would say that the place that we have a surplus, where honestly it's okay that we have a surplus, is module contributions. So really everybody who uses Puppet creates modules, right? So we have a lot of people writing modules. What I would like to see is more people actually contributing those to the Forge. But I would say that that's probably an area where we have a lot of people working on it. But on the other hand, that's great because we have a lot of modules and people need those to, basically to do anything with Puppet. I would say that the place where we have fewer contributions is on the developer side, so the Puppet core projects, because our users are predominantly system administrators. A lot of them don't have developer backgrounds or aren't interested in development. So actually contributing into some of our Puppet core projects is really useful. And it's a variety of languages. So it used to be really just Ruby. So everything was written in Ruby. So if you weren't a Ruby developer or you hated Ruby, you're just kind of SOL. But we've changed that a little bit. And now that we have several closure projects, for example, like PuppetDB. And then they talked about C Factor in Luke's keynote as well. So that's written in C, obviously. And the Puppet server is now kind of on a JVM stack. So we've got a lot of different ways. So you don't necessarily have to be a Ruby developer, which I think is kind of a common misperception. But I would like to see a lot more developers participating in our community. And historically, we haven't had a lot of those. Thanks. Eric. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone else is holding the microphone. You go right ahead.
Yes, I have the power. So have you ever thought about doing some infrastructure work to help? We come from other countries that don't speak English as a first language, and having the documentation translated, we think that's really helpful to get Puppet more usage. So and plus, the beginners always help. The translation is easy, something easy to do. And many projects, big projects like LibreOffice, GNOME, and other projects like that, the translation is the first step for a lot of people to begin helping some with something. And Puppet has an excellent documentation. It's getting better all the time. But it's written in English for obvious reasons. Have you ever thought on a way would be possible to translate and maintain the translation of the documentation?
Yes, so we're actually working on that. So we hired somebody on our docs team. Her name's Larissa. So if you email me, so I'm just Dawn at Puppet Labs, email me and I'll put you in touch with Larissa because she's actually working on that right now. We have some translated documentation into Japanese that I believe is going up onto the site soon. That was translated by some Japanese community members. What she's in the process of doing is putting in better infrastructure so that we can put in place a real translation tool and break everything out in strings so that people can localize, the individual strings and build a community around it. It's something that I'm actually kind of passionate about. I worked on the Migo project ages ago, and we used TransFX, and it was a fantastic way. We had a lot of people who got involved in the community through the localization efforts. So it is a really great place for new people to start who, their Puppet skills aren't that great yet, so they don't feel comfortable participating in other communities, but they speak multiple languages, so they're comfortable helping with translation. So I think it's fantastic, and I'm super excited that Larissa is starting to work on it. So yeah, email me and I'll put you in touch with her. Okay, now Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to add about this having to know Ruby and Clojure and that sort of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of help you could give just doing tools around Puppet as well as committing stuff to Puppet itself. I mean, for example, I've done Puppet Explorer, which is in CoffeeScript. So if you know CoffeeScript, you can contribute to that. Danny has made Puppet Board, which is in Python. So if you know Python, you can commit to that. But I mean, you can code tools around Puppet. There's a lot of APIs and stuff you can use and do them in any language.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's a fantastic way to contribute as well, is to contribute to some of those other tools.
All right, we got our last question, and then we gotta jump out.
Okay.
You spoke before about the Puppet camps and them being very basic now and everything else like that. But you said there was maybe something else.
Can you hold the microphone
forward? The Puppet camps.
Yeah.
You said that they right now they've become for beginners and everything like that. You said there was something else that you might be working on for that.
Oh yeah, so the more advanced events that I was trying to I should have done a better job emphasizing that, were the contributor events which are for more advanced Puppet users, and Pound Puppet Hack are both sort of really good places, as well as the pull request triage. It's more specific. But those sort of contributor advanced events are becoming really good places for folks who aren't as interested in beginner content. Another thing is PuppetConf. I mean, you're here at PuppetConf, but one of the things I like about PuppetConf is that there are lots of different tracks at different levels. So for those that are able to actually make it here, that's also been really helpful.
And we do a contributor event roughly every quarter. So we have the 2 in-person contributor summits in February in FOSDEM, and then October for PuppetConf, and then the Puppet Hack events are on the opposite quarters. So you can participate in some kind of a contributor event about every quarter.
Thanks. And for those interested in Puppet user groups, 5:10 p.m. if you're interested in Puppet user groups, I'm going to give it a workshop. It's going to be thrilling. There might be stickers and a logo reveal. I'm just going to say.